Hello, everyone. Today's video is going to be about chess. Okay, so for the 5 of you who are still here, welcome. Let's get on with it. So, chess. Chess is a strategy game and one of the oldest games in existence. Historians have determined that the first game of chess was played sometime in the early time in the district the Okay, I'm just kidding, of course. So why do I want to talk about chess today? Well, I was watching Black Pigeon Speaks. Do you remember him? He's the little fastest bird that hates women. You know the guy. By allowing women to fuck freely, the West has de facto entered a matriarchy. Yeah, him. Oh, I'm sorry. Is this what they call poisoning the well? Poisoning the well by directly quoting things he said? Well, no. I'm not doing that because it is, in fact, completely relevant to the topic of today's video, which is about women chess players. Now, I'm sorry that this is necessary, but we do have to watch a short clip from his video. Although this is the only clip of his I'm going to show today, so just muddle through as best you can. And moving down to Canada's southern neighbor, which has so many stories every week, it's hard to narrow them down, but these are the ones that I found most interesting, and here they are. As of publication of this video, the BPS Men's Chess Championship is currently underway with Grandmaster Wesley So, who's 23, of Minnetonka, Minnesota, in AT for first place with Daniel Narodowski. But wait, something's not right here. Men's chess. Why are there no women competing in this tournament, which is a game solely reliant upon one's faculty, not body strength? Why are chess tournaments separated by gender? Women should play chess alongside men. Chess is football or boxing. I've been told since childhood that women are every bit as smart as men, and chess shouldn't and to be segregated like this. But upon further investigation, it's not that women aren't allowed in the men's tournament, but they don't have the skill to get into high-level competitions, and if it wasn't to separate, no woman would ever win. Like in sports, women aren't actually segregated by the rules. It's just that women cannot compete against men and win in the mental game of chess, when it is the best of both genders facing off. So that clip there was from the Black Pigeon Speaks video, Merkling Mayhem / Woman Do Chess, and Sweden Yes. Sort of a random collection of letters there. And that video is a bit like a poor man's version of a Sargon of Akkad, This Week in Stupid type thing, where Black Pigeon Speaks features a bunch of seemingly random news stories and then says something horrible about them. So what's the relevance of this particular news story about Grandmaster Wesley So having to play a breaking match at the end of the BPS Chess Championship? Well, nothing really. Black Pigeon Speaks is just using the story to go off on a tangent about the fact that the BPS Chess Championship has a women's division, and he uses that as proof that women can't compete with men at chess, and are therefore less intelligent. And the logic goes that if women could compete with men, there would be no need to divide men and women into separate leagues. So is Black Pigeon Speaks onto something here. Is it true that women can't compete with men at chess? Well, I'd like to skip ahead at this point and share a news story from the 17th of this month from Chess.com. Howie a fan, I think I'm saying that right, pressures Carlsen, maintains lead at Grenk. That's China's Howie a fan, a woman pressuring Magnus Carlsen, who, in addition to being a man, is the world #1, the world chess champion, and the highest-rated player in history, into a draw to maintain her lead at the Grand Chess Classic. Now, she was leading because she had previously defeated, in the first round of that tournament, Fabiano Caruana, who is the third highest-rated player in history, behind only Magnus Carlsen and Garry Kasparov. And the interesting thing about Caruana here is that he was born in Miami, which means he's American, if you follow. So he's eligible to play in the US Chess Championship, the very tournament that Black Pigeon Speaks was talking about, which he did, coming in joint second behind Wesley So. Now then, the incredibly sharp eye among you will have noticed something interesting here, and this is just a minor point, but Black Pigeon Speaks said that Wesley So was tied for first place with Daniil Naroditsky. Yes, he did. I can prove it. Minnesota in Ati for first place with Daniil Naroditsky. See, but in this results table, we see that Daniil Naroditsky is, in fact, way down the table in joint fourth. So what happened there? Well, the Star Tribune article that Black Pigeon Speaks took the headline from has a photograph of Wesley So, which was taken during his game against Naroditsky. So Black Pigeon Speaks saw that picture and incorrectly came to the conclusion that Naroditsky was So's playoff opponent, when if you actually read the article, it's clear that it's a fellow called Alexander Anischuk. So what does this error have to do with women chess players? Well, nothing, really. I just thought it was a funny coincidence that while attempting to prove that women can't play chess properly, Black Pigeon Speaks revealed that he can't read properly. Anyway, back to Hou Yifan at the Grenka Chess Classic. Now then, according to Black Pigeon Speaks logic, this situation should be impossible. He says, why are chess tournaments separated by gender? If it wasn't to separate, no woman would ever win. Yeah. But here we have a chess tournament that is not separated by gender clearly because it's got a woman in it, and she's a woman who does have the skill to win. Clearly, because she just beat the third highest rated player in history and drew against the world chess champion. So something funny is going on, isn't it? Now, could it be that Black Pigeon Speaks doesn't actually know the first thing about chess and is just bullshitting his audience into hating women? Well, who knows? But let's give him the benefit of the doubt for now. His video was published on the 11th of April of this year, and the Grenka Chess Classic didn't start until the 15th, 4 days later. So if Hou Yifan is the first female chess player in history to ever play competitively against men at the top tournament level, we can let Black Pigeon Speaks off here. So is she. So who is this person? Well, she's Hungarian chess grandmaster Judit Polgar. She was ranked in the top 100 players in the world by the time she was 12. She achieved grandmaster status in 1991 at the age of 15, and was at the time the youngest grandmaster in history. She's defeated 11 world champions, including Carlsen, Karpov, Kramnik, Spassky, Topalov, Anand, and Garry Kasparov. And at her peak rating, she was the world number 8. Now, naturally, being one of the best players in the world, she won her fair share of tournaments. Tournaments that had male players in them. For example, she won the Hastings International Chess Congress in 1993. She won the Chopin Chess Championship in 1998, one of her games at the Russians. Rest of the World tournament in 2002 is an interesting one. And that tournament is as it sounds, you know, a bunch of Russians played a bunch of non-Russians. So, Judit Polgar found herself matched against Garry Kasparov, who's pictured here being accosted at a news conference by a remote-controlled dildo helicopter. Now, he was at the time the world chess champion, and also had a record of saying very disparaging things about female chess players. And, in fact, at once described Polgar by saying, "And then Judit Polgar beat him," becoming the first woman to ever defeat the current world number one in competitive play. And the rest of the world team went on to narrowly beat the Russia team in that tournament. A similar story here is that in 2015, British Grandmaster Nigel Short was taken to task for saying that women were naturally hardwired to be worse at chess than men. And critics of this sentiment were quick to point out that a couple of years previously, Nigel Short had been beaten by Judit Polgar in Chess.com's deathmatch tournament. So I suppose his superior brain wiring must have been short-circuiting that day or something. So then, to Black Pigeon speaks. The question is not can women compete at the highest levels of chess, because players like Judit Polgar and Ho Yu Fan have already settled that question. They can. No, the question is, why don't more women compete at that level? Because that's the thing, only a relatively small amount of the world's current grandmasters are women. So if women can do it, what's stopping more of them from doing it? And that is an interesting question. It's easy to say women can't pass a certain barrier in chess because of some biological factor. But if you make a declaration about the limits of any one group of people based on biology, time will eventually make a fool of you. You know, there were people who said there will never be a female grandmaster, and there were people who said a female chess player will never break the top 100, and they only know that they'll never break the top 10, they'll never defeat the world number all of the Leo, Mentago, they will, they will, they will, they will, they will, well, they will, they will, they will, well, no, the you, oh, well, oh, you will, days and will, And today, there are people who say there'll never be a female world number one. And there will. Obviously, eventually, a woman will take the number one spot. And then what will the goalpost movers say? You know, there's only been one female number one so far. The truth is that these biological arguments don't hold water. Once any one woman proves it is biologically, physically possible for women to compete at that level, that's the biology argument debunked. So if we re-asking why there aren't more female grandmasters, we have to look beyond biology to possible social and psychological reasons. And this is the exciting part where I get to talk about a fun study I read once, Checkmate: The Role of Gender Stereotypes in the Ultimate Intellectual Sport. Now, this study set out to test whether or not gender stereotypes affect chess ability. And how did they do that? Well, they took 42 female chess players and matched them with 42 male players of equivalent ability. They then had them play a series of chess matches online. However, the researchers did something very sneaky. They misled the female group about the gender of their opponent, such that some of the time they thought they were playing against men, and some of the time they thought they were playing against women, when actually they were only ever playing men. Sometimes the exact same men. And the results are very interesting. When women falsely believed to be playing against another woman, they won about 1 game out of 2. However, these same women performed below chance when they knew they were playing against a male opponent. Indeed, they performed more poorly against the same opponent when they knew they were playing against a male than when they thought they were playing against a female. In the experimental condition, performance was reduced by about 50 when women were reminded of the stereotype and when they were aware of the fact they were playing against a male opponent. In this case, they won only 1/4 of the games. Yet these same women were able to win half of the games when they were misled into believing that the opponent was a female. The difference in performance is particularly impressive if one considers that the opponent was exactly the same. And the study then goes into the particular ways in which the women's games differed depending on what gender they thought their opponent was. You can see why I like this one, right? It's a very fun, isn't it? Although I like all studies where the researchers mislead the subjects. So anyway, maybe it's not that women aren't as smart as men. I mean, number of chess grandmasters is only one metric, isn't it? I mean, women now outnumber men among college graduates in many places in the West, so by that metric, things look different. But instead, maybe it's more to do with gender roles and gender expectations. And I'd like to briefly introduce 2 new characters here. You see, Grandmaster Judith Polgar has 2 sisters. Fellow Grandmaster Susan Polgar and International Master Sofia Polgar. Now you might think, well, isn't that odd? 3 chess masters, all women, from the same family. From this family, What's going on there? Well, they re the daughters of a chess teacher and educational psychologist called Laszlo Polgar, who tutored all 3 in chess from a very early age. And like anyone, man or woman, if you spend several hours a day practicing at something for a very long time, then eventually you get to be very good at it. And if women are put in that environment where they practice chess every day, then they clearly turn out no differently than men do as chess masters. And the fact that not as many get into chess to start with or stick with it long enough to compete at the top level seemingly has little to do with biology and much more to do with gender expectations. So then, to the initial question, why are there women's chess leagues? Well, it's actually a fairly divisive issue among women chess players, I believe. Some people argue that these leagues are important for getting more women into the game to begin with. On the other hand, some female players, Judith Polgar included, I believe, argue that at the top level, these leagues can actually hold women back, and they should instead aim to challenge the men in tournaments that aren't divided by gender. Black Pigeon Speaks ignored all of this, of course, just like he ignored the existence of players like Judith Polgar and Hao Yifan, because why bother? You know, if you speaking to a completely ignorant audience and your intent is to mislead them even further, you know, why not lie? It's not like they gonna go and check, is it? Anyway, I'll leave Black Pigeon Speaks here with a challenge. If better at chess equals more intelligent than, how about I play you at chess to determine who's right in this argument? If you apparently know so much about chess, you know it shouldn't be too hard just to beat me, should it? So let's play. I'll play white in the first game just to get us started, and I'm gonna open with Honored 4. And I'll await your response over on Twitter. The link's in the description there. Come and have a go if you think you're hard enough. Thanks a lot for watching, everyone. It's a relatively short one today. Oh well, a change is as good as a rest, so they say. Thanks as always to all me supporters over on Patreon. There's quite a few more of them recently, which is rather exciting. We slowly building a little army over there. And we also rapidly closing in on our next Patreon goal, where our plans for world domination will finally enter phase 2. So come along and join us. It might be the only thing that saves you. I'm kidding, of course. Or am I? You know, it's better to be safe than sorry, isn't it?